Good day everyone, we need to talk about the latest drama surrounding Ironmouse, because if you have been anywhere near VTuber Twitter lately, you've probably seen the argument exploding all over the timeline right now. And honestly, this situation is a perfect example of how internet outrage cycles work in the big 2026. So let me break down what happened for everyone, why people are angry at Ironmouse, why others think the outrage is ridiculous, and why the truth is probably again somewhere in the middle. Before we go further, if you're enjoying this kind of deep dive into VTuber culture and internet chaos, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps more than you can even think of. And if you want to support the channel directly, I also have a donation link in the description. Every bit goes back into making better videos, better research and more discussions like this. Now there's one tweet that started all of it. Because the whole situation started with a tweet criticizing Ironmouse for collaborating with or even interacting with another VTuber, Usdc. Because the accusations floating on Twitter basically say Usdc allegedly involved her young daughter in content, and the child appeared singing a song that some people consider controversial because it was the Lolly Requiem song about no lolly content from Shigeru Ue. And critics claim the environment around VTubing as a whole and certain memes about it could attract creepy audience to a real-life child. And because Ironmouse interacted with or even just acknowledged the creator, some Twitter users started accusing her of platforming bad people. The whole argument from that side basically goes like this. Because Ironmouse should research people before interacting with them publicly. That is their statement. The criticism is essentially about responsibility. The idea that large creators should vet smaller creators before giving them any attention. Now the other side thinks this is just another usual Twitter dogpile, because the responses from fans and other communities have been very different. In places like forums and image boards, the reaction is basically Ironmouse is getting cancelled again over nothing. A lot of people are arguing that this is another case of Twitter outrage spiraling out of control, where a situation gets simplified into a moral panic. Because some defenders say the song involved a fictional media, the outrage misunderstands the context, or that Western Twitter users are applying their own interpretation to something that originated in Japanese internet culture. Others think the real reason Ironmouse keeps getting dragged into situations like this is simply because she's one of the biggest VTubers on the internet. And you know, success breeds jealousy. And one of the biggest underlying themes here is actually something we've seen many times before, especially in VTubing. A culture clash between different internet communities. Because some people see anime-style content and immediately view it through a very serious moral lens. Others see it just as fiction, memes and simple internet humor. So when those two groups collide, the result is always chaos. And that is exactly what is happening here right now, man. For example, critics are arguing that a child appearing in online content connected to adult audience is very risky, and that creators should be very careful about what communities they expose their kids to. Meanwhile, defenders respond that all the accusations are exaggerated and that people are projecting their worst possible interpretations onto a harmless situation about just a simple song. So instead of a calm discussion, it instantly becomes this massive online fight where people are just insulting each other at this point. And then there's another factor why that people often forget. Because Ironmouse is not just a random streamer, she is actually one of the largest independent VTubers in the world, if not even the biggest. She was even one of the biggest Twitch streamers in the world at one point. And when you reach that level of visibility, a few things automatically happen. Now every collaboration becomes political, every mistake you do becomes a controversy, and every interaction you do becomes a statement. Even if she simply acknowledges someone's content, people interpret it as endorsement from her. And that's a huge burden for any creator. especially when the internet expects you to know every detail about every person you interact with, because everyone is chronically online and they expect their creators to be the same. But now there's something else that often gets lost in these conversations, and that is the reality of Ironmouse herself. Because Ironmouse has been open about living with serious health issues and spending much of her life indoors due to her illness. And because of that, streaming and online communities are literally her main way of interacting with the whole world. So when Twitter mobs start piling on her every few months, a lot of fans feel protective of her, because they see someone who has already gone through a lot of being dragged into drama she did not even create herself directly. And if you zoom out a little, this controversy actually fits a pattern we have seen repeatedly, because the cycle usually looks like this. First, a controversial claim appears on Twitter, then second, screenshots spread without any context. Then third, people argue over any interpretations. Fourth, the creator gets dragged into it. And then fifth and last, two sides form and fight endlessly. Then a week later, everyone moves on to the next outrage. It is basically the modern internet outrage machine, and VTubers get caught in it constantly because of their content mixes. It has anime culture, internet memes, Laudian organs, and real people behind avatars. And that combination creates misunderstandings all the time, man. All the time. But is there any real lesson here? Or is it just pointless drama? Because honestly, there are two takeaways I want you to take from this video. That first, large creators do need to be very careful about who they interact with. Because when you have millions of fans, even small gestures can amplify other people. And secondly, the internet also needs to stop acting like every interaction is a moral endorsement. Because if creators had to fully investigate every single person they ever replied to, or just liked or collaborated with, they would never be able to interact with anyone. They could just stare at the wall. And streaming communities would basically collapse over time, man. So right now, Ironmouse is once again trending in a cancellation attempt. And some people think that criticism is justified, but others think it is completely ridiculous. But if history tells us anything, it's that this will probably follow the same path as most internet drama. People will just argue intensely for a few days, then the internet will move on to the next controversy. And Ironmouse will probably, still be streaming as one of the biggest VTubers in the world. Now, if you've been following this situation, I am very curious about what you think. Do you think it's actual criticism about creator responsibility, or you think it's just another example of internet looking for someone to cancel because they are bored? I'm very curious, please let me know what you think in the comments. Now, before you go, if you made it this far, you clearly enjoyed this kind of breakdown. So again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to directly support what I am building here on this channel, check out the donation links in the description. It really helps me to keep these videos coming. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening and have a good day.